to get these numbers under control, to drive them down low enough so that we can open up again. The alternative is a 6-month strategy, not a 6-week strategy, and then even at that point, significant doubt that that would work. We cannot continue to have 400 and 500 cases a day and so many people in hospital, so many people dying. We've got to drive these numbers down, and if we continue to have the sort of movement that across the community, across the economy, as is part of stage 3, if we don't move to the further restrictions I've announced today, then we simply won't drive those numbers down. That strategy has avoided our hospitals being completely overrun and many, many thousands of cases each day. That stability is not enough. We need to drive these numbers down, and as Professor Sutton has just indicated, instead of every positive person infecting another person, only every second or third or fourth person who gets the virus passing it on to someone else. That's what these restrictions are all about. It's heartbreaking, it's very challenging, but these are the tough calls that have to be made. Otherwise, we're not in for a 6-week set of restrictions. We're in for a 6-month strategy that I don't think will work. No, it's very challenging. It is very, very challenging, and no one enjoys having to make these important decisions. It is heartbreaking. It is very challenging. There will be a lot of support that is required, and we will be there to provide that support, to stand with everybody who needs that support, whether it be economic and financial, whether it be care, comfort, and the kind of welfare support that we need to provide. We have done that throughout. If we have to double our efforts and double them again, then we will. We're all in this together, and we all have to look out for each other, and the government knows it's the important part that we play in that. And I'm very pleased to say that there's an acknowledgement that whilst this is a challenge in Victoria, it is a challenge nationally as well. And that's why the national government and our government are working so closely. So yesterday I made some announcements about night network that will no longer run, and post-curfew public transport services will be dramatically reduced. We still need to have some services there because we've got some people who are still working, whether it be in our health system or in other industries, but it will be a significantly reduced timetable. So a number of services will be cancelled, and that's a reflection as well of having less people moving around the community, there being less demand for those services, but it's also about being able to redeploy staff, particularly protective service officers, to the enforcement of the curfew and the enforcement of all the other rules that we announced yesterday.
Can these construction sites run with just a quarter of staff?
Are you talking about significant civil construction, Rich, or
the big construction over 3 stories?
Yeah. Well, what we're doing, they're going back to pilot-like levels of activity. They're not being turned off, but they are just going to be sustained for that 6-week period. When you think about this, and there's been a lot of consultation, a lot of work with those businesses, with unions, to properly understand this. If you were to say complete shutdown, then it may take several weeks to make a site safe, to board it up, as it were. Then there'd be a couple of weeks when they were shut, and then there would be another couple of weeks required to open back up again. That won't achieve what we need to achieve. We need to dramatically reduce the number of people that are moving in the community. We think that as a maximum 25%, and then the safest practical number, that's where we want to get to, but it cannot exceed more than 25%. We think that that is workable. It's not pleasant. It's no one will enjoy that, but it is doable, and we think the reward for that effort, the dividend in terms of dealing with the risk of the spread of this virus, justifies us doing that. Similarly, on volume building, so building homes out in the suburbs or wherever it might be, they're obviously much smaller scale. A lot of that work is indeed outdoors, but at the same time, it's a big part. It's a very significant part of the economy, and we think we can, by going down to that 5 people at any one time, that'll mean that the house gets built more slowly. It'll mean that the plasterers are in there, but the electricians aren't. The painters are in there, but the other teams of tradespeople aren't. But it'll still be able to trickle along for this 6-week period. So wherever we've been able to do that, they're the decisions we've made. In terms of warehouses, very large distribution centres as well, that's the other example, which I think is in some of the material that you've got around scaling back. That'll mean that some parcels will arrive not quite as quickly as they otherwise would have, but they will still get there. There's a very large degree of automation in some of these places. They are a riskier environment than others. So that, again, there'll be specific, higher level, next level in many respects, unique safety measures that are put in place in those workplaces also.
Why is horse racing and greyhound racing being allowed to continue?
It continues because, obviously, it's a very low risk activity. What's more, there are changes though. There'll be no owners, there'll be no media, there'll be only the broadcasters and the direct participants involved in that activity. There are some significant Lundy animal welfare issues. If you were to try to turn that industry off and take those animals out of training, there are some very significant animal welfare challenges there. So we've found it's a compromise. I'm sure many in that industry will not be pleased that there's further, it's been scaled back further, but we think we've struck the right balance there.